Mark Lynas is a writer of impeccable green credentials. At least, as the author of books like High Tide, The Truth About Our Climate Crisis, he was a writer of impeccable green credentials until he wrote a piece in the New Statesman which challenged the traditional green opposition to nuclear power. He joins us, as does Caroline Lucas, the leader of the Green Party. Morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And Mark Lynas, I believe you've come in for a certain amount of vilification since you came out as a pro-nuclear.
Well, yes, I've really lost friends over this, and I've been advocating this line because I think you simply have to have the courage of your convictions. And when I started to look into the nuclear issue, I found out that a lot of the environmentalist anti-nuclear case was based on myths. And if you looked at some of the facts, you actually found out that you had a very different case indeed. And as somebody, and I think Caroline and I are both convinced that climate change is the preeminent challenge of our times. Nuclear power stations around the world save 2 billion tons of carbon dioxide, and there's no doubt that nuclear power is a low carbon source, and by rejecting that in an age when we've got to try and eliminate fossil fuels, I think that's it's incoherent and it's somewhat exasperating.
It's interesting you use that word exasperating. I was saying, looking at your article, you used some fairly tough language. You talked about dogmatic closed-mindedness on behalf of others like the Green Party.
Yes, I mean, it's simply that we're being told a lot of lies, actually. If you look at the Greenpeace website, they say that nuclear waste remains dangerous for 1 million years. Well, if you look at the facts, in about 1,000 years, most of the nuclear waste that's been produced so far degrades back to the background radiation of the original uranium ore, so it's not that dangerous, actually, after all. Same for, 3 Mile Island, the greatest nuclear accident in a Western country. It stopped the whole US reactor building program. And the death toll for 3 Mile Island was 0. So a lot more people are killed by other energy sources all of the time, making them far more dangerous, particularly coal-fired power.
Caroline Lucas, you and your party are guilty of dogmatic closed-mindedness, and those who think like you apparently are telling lies.
Well, I don't agree with that. I have a great deal of respect for Mark and his work, and I'm usually very happy to agree with him, but I do think on the issue of nuclear he does seem to have lost the plot. I mean, even if we put aside the major concerns about the astronomical costs of nuclear, even if we put aside the fact that we still don't know what to do with nuclear waste, which remains radioactive for, I'm happy to go for thousands of years, Mark, but that's still a heck of a long time. If you put aside even the fact that nuclear power stations are a major terrorist target, that more plutonium will lead to greater nuclear proliferation, but all of that aside, and there still remains this point that nuclear delivers far too little, too late. Nuclear provides only 4% of our final energy consumption in the UK. Even if we doubled the number of nuclear reactors, nuclear power would only deliver an 8% cut in carbon emissions sometime after 2025. The thing that was missing from Mark's analysis, which absolutely amazed me, staggering, is that he doesn't mention energy efficiency once. According to the UK's own figures, we could save 30% of the current energy that we use in Britain through energy efficiency measures alone. We don't need nuclear, Mark. Please don't go down that road. Nuclear is uneconomic, it's unsafe, but more than anything else, it's unnecessary.
Before I ask him to address those substantive points, can I just ask you one more general question, Caroline Lucas, which is whether you recognise at all the possibility that there's something almost dogmatic in the theological sense about where the Green movement stands on this question, and that people are perhaps looking at the facts through lenses tinted by the historic opposition of the Green movement to nuclear power.
I think that was certainly once the case. Yes, there is a sense that nuclear is just off the agenda. But actually, when you look at all the facts, that completely reinforces everything that we're saying. Nuclear would lock us into a centralized energy system whereby currently, if you look at our existing power stations, we waste 2/3 of the energy that they generate through wastage, through the cooling towers, through the transmission lines. Nuclear will only reinforce that. We need a very different model.
Let me ask Mark Lynas to address the points you've made, the pragmatic points you've made about the limits on the contribution that nuclear can actually make towards cutting carbon emissions. Mark Lynas.
Well, I'm afraid it's just complete rubbish. I mean, you've heard again a restatement of the conventional dogma, but look at what the Green Party's done in Germany in making sure that the nuclear power stations are going to be shut down there. The result is that Germany's now building more coal-fired power stations, and a whole lot more CO2 is going to go into the atmosphere. France has very low carbon electricity. That's because it's 80% nuclear. So that is undeniable. Certainly there are issues regarding waste and proliferation, but what I'm proposing here is that actually we have a new generation of nuclear power stations, fourth generation fast breeder reactors, which actually operate by burning up the existing stockpiles of nuclear waste. And I don't see what any environmentalist objections could be to that.
And
Well,
Caroline,
can I
just a second, I just want one of your other points to Caroline Lucas, which is your point about energy efficiency being something that appears to have got lost in the piece you wrote.
I think, yes, I mean, I wasn't addressing the entirety of the energy situation. I think energy efficiency is crucial in the short term, but it's not as if the Greens shouldn't be saying that we should shut down all our electricity supply in 2020 or 2030. We need long-term guaranteed electricity sources, particularly given that the use of electricity is going to go up as we electrify the road transport sector with electric cars.
We're running out of time. Quick response, Caroline Lucas.
He's just being silly here, isn't he? We're not talking about closing down our energy sources. We're talking about a massive investment in renewable energies. I'm amazed at the way in which he dismisses efficiency as a sort of short-term solution when, as I say, it could actually reduce 30% of the energy that we're currently using in the UK. These fourth generators that Mark is talking about are just on people's books. They don't even exist yet. They're in people's minds. They're on people's computers. What does exist is energy efficiency, renewable energy, combined heat and power, tried and tested methods that we know that work, that are much quicker, much cheaper.
We must leave it there.
Mark, please look at the facts and come back here.
Forgive me, we must leave it there.